happy to be here. Oh, there you go.
We're so glad to have you here.
And why don't you had a few questions you wanted to ask, and I thought of some story I would tell the audience that may be entertaining, and we can fill this 20, 30 minutes with a little, history,
All right.
my history. And it's just interesting stuff. So ask the question.
Okay, all right. Well, whenever I have a solo guest like yourself, I always ask them about their craft. So in your case, what drew you to becoming an actor?
Oh my goodness, God, this is going to take an hour. God, how do I say this? This is going to be the story. It was going to be another story. Now this is going to, I'm going to change stories because this is going to take a little while.
All good, boss.
Okay, I was in New York City. I was in community development. It was during the civil rights movements. I worked for a lot of organizations at that point, very political. Mayor Lindsay, who was the mayor of New York, the great mayor of New York during that period, met with him. Percy Sutton, who was the great borough president of Manhattan, had many meetings with him. So I was in a political situation during the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, late 60s really. I learned photography, got a photography studio, opened it with a buddy, and we were open for about a month. And we had dark rooms. That's when photographers had dark rooms, and we had all our Leicas and our expensive cameras, and we were robbed within the first month, and we didn't have any insurance. So, it was tough. So I didn't know what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I said, I got to find something else to do, what direction I'm going to go in. At this point, I was still fairly young, man, and I said, what do I do? Okay, so on one afternoon, beautiful spring afternoon, I'm sitting in New York, right off of Central Park West, with an actress. Her name was Cheryl Carter. She's since passed. I could tell you where you might know her, but that's not important. We were talking just about acting and her career, and I knew nothing about acting, but I saw a picture on her mantle, and she had her and a guy that I knew as a football player for the New York Jets. And they were having this very intense scene, and you could see it in their faces. Just that, I'm just chewing up the carpet. You can see it in the picture. I said, wow, it looks so intense. I said, yeah, and she looked kind of more, that's Eddie Bell from the Jets. I said, okay. So she said, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. She knew I lost my studio. And she said, well, I'm going down to 42nd Street. I'm going to audition for a play. Why don't you come on down with me, and we'll go have something to eat after that, and maybe hit a movie or something. I said, that sounds great. There wasn't a love affair or anything. She's just a friend, and it was a pleasant day, and it's that kind of day, that kind of wonderful sunny spring day that you do those kind of things. Yeah. So we went down, and I saw so many people going up, and she went up to audition, and I looked around, and they're beautiful girls, and I said, wow, nice, this is a nice place here. I was very young, okay, all right. Keep that in mind. and I said, gee, wonder if I could get a dinner served role, or may I take your hat, madam role, or something, just to kill a few weeks until I decided what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Maybe I'd go back to school. Maybe I would, study Cornell University. Was very close to where I lived. Maybe I could maybe finish my education, maybe go into serious politics, maybe become a late state senator or something. That was certainly something I thought about, maybe the mayor. I didn't want to be mayor, but maybe state senator, or maybe city council, something. Anyway, so Cheryl came back to say, I said, Cheryl, I wonder if they got a small role and I can go up and I can hang with you guys for a couple of weeks, why this, because I was going to run a few weeks, supposedly. And she said, well, go up and read. I said, well, what do I read? They read what everyone else is reading. I said, okay. So I went up and I read, and they gave me the lead in an off-Broadway play. I got good reviews, rave reviews, at the Manhattan Theater Club, because we moved it from this broken-down theater on 42nd Street to the Manhattan Theater Club, a very prestigious theater on the Upper East Side of New York. From that point on, I started to get little roles in other off-Broadway plays, and the sawdust was in my nostrils, and I was on my way. So that's how I started this journey to where I am today. Some people say I should say I went to Juilliard or Yale Drama School, and that is where I wanted to go. But I'm not gonna lie, no matter what anyone says. So I just tell you what happens, and I'll take the fall.
Doesn't matter how he got it. You got that equity card.
Yeah, I got that equity card and that SAG card. That's right. So anyway, yeah.
So before we get your collaborations with Mr. Romero, which I'm sure was about to talk about, one thing in your body of work that I really enjoy, you worked with Richard Pryor on his directorial debut, the only film he directed, and it was a very autobiographical project and very strong role. What was that experience like?
Oh man, well, Richard Pryor was a kind, considerate, supportive, great individual. I will never forget him. I will always honor him. He went well above and over the limit for me. He did so many things for me, just to encourage me and give me an opportunity. Not just in that role, but I did Bingo along with him as well. That's the first film. And there's always a story. Yeah, a lot of people will come up and they can have this conversation with you, and they can talk about, what you can get sarcasm. You can get David Lean up here. You can get Tarantino up here. You can get Bruce Campbell, whoever you want. And they'll talk about their roles and that kind of thing. But every time I start to talk about anything I've done, the story behind it is funnier and more interesting than almost anything I've done. And I don't know why, but I have so many great stories. We were doing Bingo Long. You know Bingo Long, Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings? Does anybody know it? You probably don't. No, and no, right? Okay. It's a film that had Billy D. Williams, Richard Pryor, James L. Jones, Stan Shaw, Tony Burton. You know who Tony Burton is? Nobody knows who Tony Burton is, right? Okay. This was, remember Rocky, Apollo Creed, the bald guy that was Apollo Creed's trainer? That's Tony Burton. Yeah. Okay.
We just lost him.
Just lost him not too long ago. You know Stan Shaw? He plays boxers a lot in a lot of films. You've seen Stan Shaw in 100 things. Anyway, and a cast of thousands. Anyway, this is such a long freaking story, I can't believe it. It was my first movie, Universal, major picture. Rob Cohen, who directed War Games and Saturday Night Fever, he directed. I'm sorry. That was Rob Cohen produced. Rob Cohen is with the car thing, with the fast cars. What is it? What are the fast car franchise?
Oh, Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious. That's Rob Cohen. He's the producer of those.
John Badham.
John Badham was the director of Bingo Long, who also did War Games and Saturday Night Fever. And the crew had just finished shooting Jaws when they came over to shoot Bingo Long. So I'm talking to the guys who were just spent months working with Spielberg, creating this classic movie. Anyway, so we're down there in Georgia. I've got this role, and I don't have a lot to do. So I spent about 2 weeks shooting and about 2.5 months sitting by the pool drinking mid juleps. It was great. It was absolutely, it was a ball.
Those are the gigs you live for.
Oh man, God, it was, every time I think about it, it was, anyway, so Richard had a party one night. And his mother and father and grandfather, and you know his family's history, you know who they were. So they came down. Do you know the family history of Richard Pryor? Have you ever seen his, do you know his, does anybody, raise your hand if you know Richard Pryor's family history.
It's very...
Okay. His father was a pimp. His grandmother was a madam for the whorehouse they ran. His mother and aunties were whores, prostitutes. And that's where he was raised. All right, so, yeah, it's all, he says it in all his acts. He's public, very public about it. He's been very public about it. That's what it is.
And the film JoJo Dance of Your Life is calling, which I can mention, but technically he can't. Yeah. Autobiographical film, and he plays a wonderful role in it.
Yeah, so Richard's having this party. And he rented a house, and we're in Macon, Georgia. And I mean, this was a great party. Usually when you have a party, and you have a mixture of people, you have white people and black people, you're gonna have some people that are reserved, some people that are into it, some people that are just cautious of sitting at the wall, holding up the wall, a little, hesitant about getting involved, or careful how they get involved, or how they, there's a certain, uneasiness sometimes, and then there's some people that are fully involved. So there's all these different attitudes, and everybody at this party was like they were in the biggest dance contest in the world. They were, don't care what you were, white, black, everybody, kick it. And it was crazy. Sweat was flying. Everybody was dancing. I don't care who you were dancing your head off. Unusual, especially in those days. It was unusual, but it was happening. All of a sudden, the music stopped. And I looked around and everybody like, why are you stopping the music? This party's been going on for an hour and a half, and we're having a great time. Look at all these people. They're sweating. They're ready to go to the next thing. And these are executives. These are guys behind the camera operators, gaffers, actors, publicity people, people from Motown, people from Universal Studios, and all of them were. And now they're going, what's going on? Why are you stopping? Richard said, I just got my new movie from Warner Brothers, my new album. See how long ago it was. So he brought out this album. And I would suggest that if you want to hear something that will make you roll in your seats, it's the one where he talks about Miss Rudolph, the voodoo lady, and his buddy Tootums with the bad feet. He put it on. And I'm pissed, because we got to sit down now. Everybody's got to sit back and listen to this album. But within a few minutes, I remember there was a guy that was a publisher for a major magazine. He was sitting here. In a few minutes, we were both tumbling on the floor with laughter. Actually, off the couch, falling with laughter. It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. If you get a chance, look in his category, his catalogs, and look for anything that says Miss Rudolph, Toodlums with the monkey, Toodlums with the little feet. And get that if you can. You're gonna laugh your head off. It's classic Richard Pryor. You don't get to hear it. I don't think they always do his night special, but it was yeah. But this was classic. So anyway, I got to meet Richard then. That's first time. I was a huge fan. With James Earl, huge fan. Billy D, huge fan. And it was a great experience. I didn't know how long I would be in the business. I think I did a Kojak before that, and then Bingo Long. And before that, I was doing the stage stuff in New York, off Broadway. So that kind of brought me in, and I had a great time in Georgia. And it's about the Negro Leagues, this film, Bingo Long. And that's when Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, all these guys you hear about, Cool Papa Moore, Cool Papa Bell, all those people were playing baseball in the Negro Leagues. This film was about that. And my grandfather in Indianapolis, Indiana, would take me and my two cousins, to the Semi Pro baseball team there, the Indianapolis Indians, and we watched games. And occasionally, the Indianapolis Clowns would come in, and they were a baseball team that were like the Harlem Globetrotters, but they were baseball players. And they did all these wonderful tricks, and they had a guy with no arm, guys, little guy, and guys that wore top hats and on stilts. They did wonderful things with baseballs. We loved seeing them every year, a couple times a year in Indianapolis, and they were called the Indianapolis Clowns. Okay. Guess who's in the movie? I get there. It's my first major film. I got Richard Pryor, James Earl Jones, Billy D. Williams, Stan Shaw, all these greats, and a cast of thousands of other people I could mention that you've probably seen here and there and everywhere. And it's shot in my grandfather's hometown of Macon, Georgia. My grandmother's hometown was Savannah, Georgia, his wife. And the Indianapolis Clowns are part of the baseball team. And I'm saying, am I going to stay in this business? Should I be here? Is this some kind of, are you saying something to me up there, guys?
What a weird conflagration. Just so many facets of your life and things
one of those kind of
loved.
things that happens through it.
Wow.
That journey in life that things happen and you wonder why, and you say, I guess, it's just the way things happen, period.
Ken, this is your life project, you know?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So I had a great time. I can't tell you much more about this adventure because we'd have to be at a club and for adults only, but it was a great time. But like I said, if you ask me one question about something, there's always a backstory. If you ask me how I got involved in the convention business, there's another story, but I'll let you do what you go do. Go ahead, ask your question.
Let's get to a topic I'm sure a lot of people want to.
Okay.
How did you first meet Romero? How did the journeys, not just involving zombies, but again, I'm a huge fan of Night Riders. So how did your relationship with George begin?
That brings me to another story.
Oh no, that's what we're here for, brother.
No.
That's what we're here for.
No. Oh,
trust me, I have a lot of people up here just say, I auditioned for the role and I got it. There you go.
Crazy, man.
No, man,
it does. It really does. It does. Yeah, I can cut it, and skip to the point. But I get back from bingo. I'm back off Broadway in New York. I'm doing Uncle Tom's Cabin. First time it's been done since the original production, I believe. Okay? I think that was. I'm doing Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'm not Uncle Tom, but I'm playing one of the slaves, Cisco or something. And we're in the back, we're getting dressed and made up, getting ready to go on this small stage at the WPA Theater, right next to, or 2 doors down from, and some of this for you rock fans might ring a bell, CBGB's. the original, where Sex Pistols, Debbie Harry, all of them were there, and I saw them. I used to go down there because it was 2 doors down. What's going on in here? And I look in, I see them. Then they started throwing each other off. And, they were bumping into each other and throwing, that throwing people across. I said, no, this is crazy. Okay, all right. So I'm sitting at the makeup table, and we're putting on the makeup, getting ready. The guy tells me, his name's Ron Carrier. He's passed for about 2 or 3 years now. Ron Carrier says, "Hey, Ken, there's a few people I know are looking for an actor for a film, and you might fit the bill. It's up in Midtown. You want to check it out?" Yeah, okay, give me the number. Sure, I'll check it out. Why not? I really, like I said, I did Kojak, Bingo Long, new in the business, didn't know anybody. Did I have I just had an agent. I got an agent for Bingo Long. I didn't have an agent for Kojak, all right? So I said, okay. So next day, a couple days later, I went up to Midtown where the offices were. I walked in, said, "Oh, Racerhead, Night of the Living Dead. Oh, I know this movie. That's my friend Dwayne Jones, yeah. Racerhead, I've seen that movie. That's a crazy movie. That was interesting." And I walked in. There was George and Richard Rubenstein. And they read me with Galen Ross, Scott Reiniger, and David Emke. And we read a couple scenes together. And they said, "Okay, and we'll talk to you." I said, "All right." A couple of days later, they called and said, "Could I come back up and read again?" I said, "Sure." I came back up, and they had 3 other people for the roles. And I read with them. And then, well, a week later at the most, I got a call saying that I had the role and we'll be leaving for Pittsburgh a certain period of time. And congratulations. That's how I met George Romero, Richard Rubenstein, David Emge, Galen Ross, and Scott Reiniger.
This question has probably come up constantly because people always ask it. People always will ask folks like yourself, "Oh, did you always know it was going to be a success?" I like to translate that into, when did you realize that film sort of had a following that just only got bigger and bigger and bigger?
Oh, I have another story for you.
Please.
Here we go.
Y'all want to hear another story? All right. Yeah.
Here we go, okay? When I read the script, I said to myself, this will, first of all, it was non-union. So
we could talk freely about it.
I was SAG. And I said, "Oh, I can't do this." Then I read the script and I said, "Wait a minute. This will never play Guam. There's so much violence and carnage in this film that it'll never get a rating. They won't let it in the country. They have to play it in South America someplace. So I'm good. No one will ever see it. I'll just make my money and get away." So we shot it and had a great time. Wish I could do it again. Some things I like to do differently. But we had a great time. And, oh God. I didn't know anything. Richard Rubenstein and Salah Hassanin were distributors in the American market. In Europe, it was Dario Argento, right? He had, and it was called Zombie there. Dawn of the Dead here. And we went to a press conference on the east side of Manhattan, 50-something Street, but Upper East Side. I mean, this is really a very wonderful hotel, and this is the conference room, and it was huge and elaborate and very, very up top, So they had a press corps of at least 20 or 30 people from the press, including Rex Reed, several others that I could recognize from television. And I said, well, damn, this is impressive. When it came out, I had people in my acting class, people I knew, who said, you were in that movie? And I never spoke to them, and they never spoke to me again. We had one major screening, and one from the LA Times sat at my table and looked at me and said, how does it feel to kill children on screen? Oof. So I still didn't know how big the movie was going to, if it's going to be a giant hit. I knew that it got a lot of coverage from these different networks, and Cisco, Ebert, Rona Barrett, Gene Shalit, Rex Reed, and there was somebody else. I'm leaving someone out. They were major on television at that time. For those of you that don't know, these people were on television every night on a different channel, giving you a movie review. Said every night, different channel. You went to ABC, you had one. NBC, you had another. CBS, you had another. Then some other channel, you have a PBS, you have a. They had, and these people had articles, but all of them had either daytime or nighttime reviews on major channels, and everyone watched them. And they gave us all a thumbs up. Go see it. They said they wouldn't go see it again. Yeah. They said if you're into that stuff, it's for you, but we'll give you a thumbs up because it's well made. Okay? So that was impressive. Okay? I'm still thinking, okay, okay. So I'm kind of like going along with the flow and hoping nobody's still thinking. Anyway, I don't know what I was thinking at that point. I think it was all happening so quickly that I was just swept away and didn't quite realize that, hey, buddy, you might get in trouble. So I decide, Scott Reinecker and I started that's when we started to think that there might be a role for us in other films. Maybe our roles, we did a good job, and maybe we could find some offers from other people. So we started having screenings, and we paid for them. We had screenings at a few places, and it was interesting. And I decided if I was going to do anything with this, I better go to Hollywood. So I went to Indianapolis, Indiana, on my way to Hollywood following this film. And I spent about a month there. And it was in drive-ins there. I was interviewed by the local PBS station. Local news stations interviewed me. My cousins were taking me to drive-ins, and my cousins, put 5 people in the trunk, and then we got 3 people down on the. Don't do that. I can't drive in the drive. Shut up. We can't. This is family. Family. You can't choose them, and you can't correct them. So we get to go pull up, and I'm driving. And said, Hey, we can get in free, right? He's in it. It's our cousin. He's in. We're paying. Shut up. Don't tell him that. Yeah, just take the money, mister. Please, take the money. So, that went on, and I had to make 3 or 4 trips to the drive-in to take all the cousins to see it. I get out to California, and this thing's playing everywhere. Give you an idea. Scott Reiniger was working for a chauffeur limousine company. They had 3 limousines. Scott was driving one, I was driving one, another guy was driving another. The owners of the limousines of the company, so Scott was first, eventually gave him the job to dispatch. So Scott will call us. So he'll tell you that he's worked for me, I worked for him. Never worked for him. He was a driver, I was a driver. They gave him $2 more so he could be a dispatcher. Anyway, so we're driving. He said, "You want this job? You want to stay with these people all night? You pick them up at the airport, stay there?" I said, "Yeah, sure. I got it." So I got my black suit and my tie and stuff. I go to the airport, and I hear somebody screaming, "Ken Foree! Ken Foree! Oh, man, and he's waving, hands going, "Hey, Ken, it's me over here. I'm your biggest fan. Man, you're great. Man, oh, Jesus Christ, what are you doing here? Where you headed? What you doing, man? I just saw, me and my girlfriend, we saw you at the Westchester Drive-In in Westchester, New York. You're fantastic. I love you as an actor, man. You're wonderful." And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What's your name?" He said, "My name's Bob Fosse." I said, "Well, I'm picking you up, Bob." He said, "What?" I said, "Oh, I'm picking you up, Bob." I said, "Picking me up?" "Yeah, I'm driving the limousine." He said, "You got to be kidding me." I said, No, I'm not." You know who Bob Fosse is? Everybody know him? Those of you who don't know him, he's one of the greatest choreographers to ever work in Broadway. Chicago is his. Cats, Chicago, you name them, some great show.
And a brilliant director.
Yeah,
This way, y'all heard of the phrase jazz hands? That was his creation, literally.
Yeah.
He created jazz hands.
Yeah, the documentary's been done. There's a nice series that was on plane.
FX,
yeah,
recently, Bob Fosse.
Yeah, Bob Fosse.
Yeah,
it was
really
great
good.
series. Yeah, great. So he, that was what he was coming for. I picked him up because he was going to the premiere of his film, All That Jazz. So I'm driving him, and he says, "Oh, man, you're driving me?" I said, "Yeah, I'm driving you, Bob." Okay, so we get in the car. This is stopping, man. We get in the car, and I take him to his hotel, and I wait, and I came back for him, picked him up, and the woman he's with, and a guy by the name of Daniel Melnick. He was a big producer for Sony or MGM, something like that. Daniel Melnick and his woman. And so I'm driving him up, and he says, Bob says, "Ken, you're not sitting out here with all these other guys." Because limousine drivers, they'll park around the corner, and all the limousine drivers get out and smoke cigarettes and talk to each other. I said, "No, you're not going to do that. Come on. You come in and see the picture with me." So I went in to see All That Jazz with Bob Fosse, and the premiere, of his film. He got me a seat. I sat in the back, watched it, that kind of thing. It was time to pick him up. I got out of there early, went and picked him up, driving him home. He said, "Ken, how do you feel after creating a role like that and being that good and having to do this?" I said, pretty fucking bad. Bob, not good, not great. Anyway, so yeah, that was, and then that was this comes in sections because I'm beginning to get an idea that this thing is and it's playing everywhere. Rubenstein and Salah Hassanin is playing it in all the drive-ins across the country. They're also playing it in every major houses. On the east side, it played it at Embassy Suites 1 and 2. These are on First Avenue, in 52nd, 53rd Street, something like that. You don't get cheap stuff in that area. This is right down from the UN and some very classy. There's a very classy neighborhood there. I forget the name. Tudor City.
Oh yeah.
Tudor City, which you can't walk down Tudor City. This is 5 blocks from Tudor City. You can't walk down there and without somebody calling the police and having you thrown out, and white or black, no matter who you are. You don't walk. Who are you? Why are you here? I mean, it's that exclusive. That exclusive. But it played in New York on the west side. It played at the Winter Garden, which was right across the street from the Broadway theaters. So this was not small houses. It wasn't in those houses where people like Midnight Cowboy when they're having sex in those all-night movies on 42nd Street. Wouldn't play it in those places. Playing in great theaters all over and drive-ins, and then in some midnight shows. I went to see it once just to see the crowd reaction at a midnight show in the Village, and it played. The first thing I had to see was Pink Flamingos, and I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! What the heck have we got here?" So, anyway, so this is I'm getting all right. I'm in California. I get a call. It says, "Miss Foree." I said, "Yes, it's Ken Foree. This is the board at SAG, Screen Actors Guild."
Uh-oh.
"Really?" "Yeah, what do you want?" "I would like to see you." I said, "What's this about?" "It's about this movie that you were in." I said, "Shit." It's not gonna play Guam. So I go up. I said, and I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't know what to say. I said, "Okay, do I lie? You know? What do you say?" And I'll tell you who was on the board that you might recognize. There were other people. One you might. Kent McCord. Anybody remember Kent McCord from it was one of those rescue on 9 things.
Adam 12.
Back in television, the old days of television, Kent McCord.
Adam 12.
Adam 12, yes. He's on the board. And I looked at him and I said, I got to tell him. I just got to tell him. So I said, "Listen, I was working off Broadway. I was working in a bar at night, the assistant bartender, bouncer. I didn't have any money. I needed the money, and I thought this damn thing would never play out of South America. You understand? I'm sorry, but I won't do it again." I looked at them. They looked at me. They said, "Would you wait outside, please?" I said, "Yes, okay." So I went out and I waited outside. It took them about 15 minutes. Somebody came to the door and said, "Would you come back in, Mr. Foree, please?" So this was a long walk. Because I knew. I hadn't been in LA that long.
Right.
So now I'm going to not be able to work for maybe years. And the film's out, and maybe it's getting some traction here. Maybe I could get a role here and there. And I'm walking like trying to remember the walk because the guy looked back at me. "Are you okay?" Yeah. So I come back in. They said, "Okay, we're going to let you go with just a warning. Don't ever do it again." You understand? I said, "I'll never do it again. Guarantee you." And I got off there. So, to bring it up to where it really hit me, it still is hitting me to this day. I was on a plane a year ago, 2 years ago, going to somewhere, some convention, and we were about to land, but it was taking a while, and I couldn't get anything on the internet at that point. So I was just going through some of my files, on my computer, And I ran into a file that I just didn't recognize. And I started looking through it, and it was just picture upon picture upon picture, advertising upon advertising, advertising, product, product, product for Dawn of the Dead. And it was, eventually, I would have to skip down 10 and open up and see if it changed to something else. Skip down another 10 and see if it would change to another picture or some other subject or something. And it kept going, different ones from everywhere, all over the country, all over the world, every product you can think of, every picture you could think of. And it kept going, and I said, my God, I said, this thing's covered more than anything I've ever seen in my life. I said, this is like Star Wars. I've had people come to me in their 60s and 70s with their son in his 40s, grandson in his teens, great-grandson, 6 or 7, and say, we're passing it along to our children. Come back, the grandfather's gone, the son's gone, the other ones are older, and they're passing it along to theirs. I've had people come to me who have told me that they've survived Vietnam because of what my character did. They thought about, they watched, they saw, they had pictures of or something of my character. And they would come back with Special Forces badges and say, I've held this for you for years in case I ran into you, because you helped me get out of that foxhole. You helped me survive that battle. I've had police and SWAT officers do the same exact thing. You helped me get out of it. You helped me, you're the reason I became a SWAT officer. You're the reason that I didn't go to jail. You're the reason I decided to raise a family, the reason I decided to go straight, the reason I decided. So many people have come to me and said that in the course of the last 20 years. And, you know, I'm a guy. I put my pants on one leg at a time like all of you, anybody else. And that's a very humbling thing to happen to someone. I'm very touched by it. I feel very responsible for it. And those are the things that now make me realize how important that movie is, what that movie meant to generations of people, what my character meant to so many people, and what a responsibility I have. And that was, you know, and it's not that this movie is better than but then again, this movie, for some strange reason, this movie, low budget, slapstickish, corny, stupid sometimes. Actors are novice at the best. This movie is rated sometimes in some of the finest publications in the film industry, along with Star Wars, Clockwork Orange, Alien, as one of the greatest movies ever made. Horror or non. Especially horror. So, you know, it's you know, I can't, you know, I mean, you got tons of people out here right now. You got people that are in hit movies, present, past, that kind of thing. They're things, rightfully so, they will never be forgotten either. But I've had my run. I've had my run. I've had what wasn't expected. Remember, it wasn't going to play Guam.
Ken, this has been an absolute delight. And to that, on behalf of myself and our audience here, not only as fans of Dawn of the Dead, but just your whole total body of work, I have to thank you. I have to thank you for your talents. I thank you for professionalism. And I thank you for the performances you have brought to all of your roles. It has been a privilege. Absolutely. And we've got 3 minutes. So I tell you, if somebody's got one, we can do one quick one, and then he'll be right bound at his table if you want to throw something at it. So I'll take a hand. I'll take the first. All right, I'll take a bit. Hey, what's your name?
Steven.
Steven, what you got?
How's your relationship with Rob Zombie, and how is he compared to other directors?
Ooh.
How's my relationship with Rob?
That was his question, too, so we're getting two birds.
Okay, that's right. How's my relationship with Rob Zombie? How's it compare with other directors? My relationship with Rob Zombie is good, I would think. Rob is my man. I love Rob. Can't wait to work with him again. He's a fan of mine. Like Fosse, Rob. Like Fosse, Bill Clinton. It goes on. Like Fosse, sheiks in Saudi Arabia. So Rob was a fan. Rob's in terms of a director. Rob is a wonderful director. He really is. He's an artist. He's an artist in every sense of the word. Not only does he play music, not only does he paint, but he also directs and writes, and some of his stuff is very, very, very good. You know, some people complain about this movie wasn't that good and this movie wasn't that good. Capra didn't make great movies every time he stepped out. Some of them were. You know, so Rob's a great director. You know, give him time. You get some more out of him.
I'm waiting. He wants to make a hockey goon movie so bad about his favorite team, the Philadelphia. I was like, yes, I want to see Rob Zombie's basically his version of Slapshot. I'd kill for that.
I've got a few scripts. I started to when we talked about coming out here.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I got a few stories for you, right? And those stories had nothing to do with what we talked about today. Okay? And so but one of them was, you know, I've got scripts that I have a serial killer script that I would love Rob to direct, and I even have a 6-hour limited series drama that is a very special subject that I would love for Rob to direct one of the episodes, because I think that he would, or to do a bit of each episode, because he has a special knack for something I need, and I would love for him to have his hand on that portion of the script and episodes that follow. So anyway,
Well, we absolutely look forward. We hope, our fingers crossed, that these things can come to pass.
I hope those things come to pass. I'm trying to get stuff done myself, so hopefully you will see something from me very soon. Look for me. I'll be there. I've been away. We don't have the time to tell you any other stories, but boy, if I got to tell you stories about what I've been doing. Anyway.
Nightmare 2023, this was Ken Foree, and that was our time. But before we go, we would love to invite everybody to come towards the stage. We want to get a picture with our guest and all of you.
Hey, let's do that.
Yeah.
That's great.